desired ER, then look for HP followed by EM substats. Crit substats do help with her hydro damage, but they are lower priority since your focus is to increase bloom damage. As for her artifact sets, the easy and efficient way to build her is with 2-piece set combos. The 2-piece tenacity is definitely a priority for its HP bonus. Then for the other 2-piece set bonus, my next recommendation is between the 2-piece emblem or 2-piece EM sets. Then if you already have good pieces of the 2-piece Heart of Depth or 2-piece Noblesse, they are still possible options to at least increase hydro damage or burst damage. 2-piece combos can be really good since they have more substat flexibility. However, if you happen to have a 4-piece Gilded Dreams with excellent substats, it's not a bad choice as it aims to increase Nilou's own bloom damage. Nilou doesn't have a best in slot set or combo that's really miles ahead of other combos, and having great substats can swing the favor into one set combo over the other. So I'd recommend you to farm whichever is most resin efficient for you right now and account for the substat quality of your pieces. Now for her hydro damage build, which definitely takes more investment than her bloom artifacts. With her main stats, your main priority is HP or ER Sands. Then it's basically a hydro damage goblet and crit circlet. The substats you want are crit, HP, and ER. If you're using her in a vaporized team, it'll be nice to get some EM rolls to boost her vape damage as well. For her ER needs, I do recommend to make her burst reliably since it contains her largest modifiers, which can be turned into huge
You know what?
damage.
I may as well
Again,
try.
160 to 200% is a common range you can aim
If Wind
for.
Blight
As
is
for
still
her artifact
a
sets,
bitch,
you can go again for more
I can just
accessible 2-piece combos of Heart of
ignore
Depth, Tenacity,
this quest
Emblem,
and do it
Noblesse,
later,
or an EM set.
as I
Choose the
usually
pieces
already
with the
do.
best substats. For 4-piece sets, she has more options now compared to her Bloom build. The 4-piece emblem will be great especially for a burst nuke build and to help address her energy needs. The 4-piece Noblesse sacrifices a bit of personal damage to give your team an attack buff, which can be situationally better depending on the team. The 4-piece Blizzard Strayer is a very niche option in a freeze team, so you can focus on
There's a Talus
stacking
coming up and I
HP
kinda wanna
crit
beat it up.
damage. I have 2 notes on these specific artifacts in case you were wondering. The 4-piece Tenacity will only be procced by her pirouette
With the increased
attacks
jump
and
height,
her
it
sword
should be
dance
no
hydro
problem
infused
getting up to
attacks.
the
It cannot be
Talus
procced by
without
the
needing
Tranquility
to...
Aura's hydro application. This limits her potential to use Tenacity as an
Oh yeah, there's
on-field
also a
team
Talus
attack
here.
buffer. Second, there
May
can
as
be
well,
cases
let's
of
beat them
very
both
niche
up.
uses of Lava Walker for a vape team
Oh, I should
and
climb
Thunder
this tower
Soother for a
first.
taser team, but these are too inefficient and niche to recommend farming for.
Relaxing days like this are nice. Let's
Huh.
take it easy.
When it comes to weapon options, Nilou's HP scaling
Alright,
damage
so
makes attack an irrelevant
Night
stat. Her
set
sword dance
increases-
attacks are also
decreases
considered elemental skill
actual
damage,
charge
so
attacks.
effects that buff normal attacks have no use on her. Weapons with ER
I honestly
can also
think
be
this
more
set
valuable
bonus is a
if you're building
mistranslation,
with a burst
probably.
every rotation and are still
It's like-
lacking ER stats from your artifacts. Keep these points in
I mean,
mind
I
when
guess you
choosing
could
Nilou's weapon. There are 3
stretch the
possible
meaning of
3-star
charge
options
attack
for
to be
Nilou. First is the Dark Iron
the climb,
Sword, which
the
will
jump
mainly be
that
for
you
the
do in
EM
climbing
stat,
and the
particularly
sprint,
on Bloom teams.
the
Second
breaststroke
is the
that you
Skyrider
do.
Sword, which gives a high
But
ER
yeah.
stat. The movement speed bonus from its passive is something for helping her mobility. The third option is the Harbinger of Dawn for the crit stats it offers. This is a bit tricky to recommend due to the 90% HP condition, but in non-bloom teams where you can really guarantee Nilou stays above 90% HP, the crit stats are very good. Moving on to the 4 stars, there are a lot of great free-to-play or gacha options. Let's start with the ER weapons. The Favonius Sword is an excellent weapon thanks to its ER and battery utility, and since Nilou will be comped with many burst-reliant units, this helps a lot with addressing your team's energy needs. The Festering Desire, if you were able to get it, synergizes pretty well with her since it buffs her skill attacks with damage bonus and crit rate. The Sacrificial Sword has interesting synergy with her. Thanks to the cooldown reset,
That's
you
the
can
sword
have both her
out.
Tranquility Aura and Sword Dance active if you execute them right after another. If you're mainly using her as an on-field DPS, then this lets you have more Sword Dance uptime. It also doubles her particle generation. The Sapwood Blade is an option as an ER craftable weapon, and it also drops a leaf that gives an EM buff upon being picked up. However, since the leaf can be inconvenient to get, and if you have any of the previously mentioned ER weapons anyway, this is a lower recommendation. Now let's see the 4-star EM options. Sifo's Moonlight is the latest 4-star gotcha sword, and it's actually pretty great on her since it helps with both her EM and ER, while giving a minor ER team buff too. If you happen to get this, then it's a pretty good option, though trying to snipe a 4-star on the weapon banner is very risky. Meanwhile, the Iron Sting is a good free-to-play choice for her Bloom or Reaction teams with its EM stat and small elemental damage bonus buff. Now for her 5-star options. The Key of Kajni's suit is her best weapon. Aside from giving an insanely high HP stat, it converts Nilu's HP into EM for her and for the team. The Jade Cutter is great thanks to its insanely high crit rate and its
66,
HP%
yeah, that is
passive.
absurd.
It's more recommended for her raw hydro damage playstyle though. If you happen to have them, the Haran and Mist Cutter Reforged are your next alternatives without Jade Cutter, and you want to build her for hydro damage. You can't utilize their full passives, but they are stat sticks nonetheless. The Freedom Sworn is the only 5-star EM option. However, note that its team buff passive affects normal attacks and attack, which is going to be very underutilized in a Bloom team. Finally, the Skyward Blade's main benefit is its ER. Though the 4-star ER weapons are arguably preferable since they have better passive sets synergized with her.
I want to use my performances to show the beauty of art to more people.
Now let's go to her teams. As I've mentioned, her strong niche team is a Hydro Dendro Bloom team, which I'll discuss in detail. She also has some alternatives, which I'll also mention afterwards. For her Bloom team, you're going to be restricted to using only Hydro and Dendro units. You won't get her Golden Chalice effect by inserting a third element, even as a flex slot. Doing that removes what makes her special, so follow the Hydro and Dendro condition to unlock her potential. There's no rule that says how many Dendro and Hydro units have to be on the team, so it can be 3:1 or vice versa. The benefit of doing so is that whatever the lone element is, you can likely guarantee that it will be the trigger. However, that means that the solo elemental application won't be fast enough to keep up with generating as many cores as possible. There are compelling reasons to make it 2 and 2. It helps with batterying fellow Dendro or Hydro units. It unlocks both Hydro and Dendro resonance, which are equally useful in her Bloom team, and having consistent sources for both elements lets you generate more blooms. A healer is highly recommended to heal yourself from the self-damaging mechanic of Bloom. For that, we have 2 dedicated Hydro healers, Kokomi and Barbara. They can be built as traditional HP healers for more healing, and or with some EM for higher Bloom damage. They also have slow off-field Hydro application, making it more likely that the Bloom reaction is Hydro on Dendro, which allows for more core generation. Then for your Dendro units, the Dendro Traveler and Kole are your most convenient options as off-field supports and Bloom setups or triggers. Technically, Tighnari can be slotted in as a Dendro unit, the difference being that he'll take more on-field time. Our upcoming Dendro Archon Nahida might be a very good teammate for Nilou, so we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully other Hydro or Dendro characters will appear in the future to give her Bloom teams more variety. Nilou's Bloom teams can present some challenges to control which teammate will trigger their share of blooms. That's why Nilou's Bloom damage buff is team-wide, so that despite the difficulty of controlling Bloom ownership, everyone can still do more Bloom damage than they normally would. If you're really min-maxing damage, then you'll want to be more conscious of the order of abilities, and ideally, the highest EM units trigger the most blooms. I didn't bother optimizing my Dendro units' EM stats on my Nilou team tests, and it still worked very, very well. Making sure her teammates have enough ER, though, helps a lot in maintaining the uptime of each unit's elemental application. Bloom damage scales on character level 2, so you lose a lot of base bloom damage by leaving them at 80. Ideally, most, if not all, characters will be level 90 if they aren't yet. This can get expensive though, so it's up to your dedication and resources. Nilou does have alternative team options. She's not using her full potential there, but she works to some extent, and she's not an upgrade to other Hydro units, but that shouldn't be a surprise. For one, she could still be the Hydro unit in Virgin, Hyper Bloom, or Quick Bloom teams. She won't activate her Golden Chalice effect since it doesn't fulfill the team conditions, so she'll be a Hydro applicator to generate regular Dendro cores. She also works in the Breeze team, either as an on-field or off-field Hydro applicator. Note again that her off-field Tranquility Aura only applies wet, but doesn't deal damage. For her big team, she can either be the enabler or trigger for Vaporize. You really want Xianglei's Pyro application, which is fast enough to help Nilou forward Vaporize. Her burst damage in particular is valuable to Vaporize, since it's her largest multiplier, it has a huge AoE, and it can double Vaporize. Her Luminous Illusion hit also has the highest multiplier, which you'll ideally want to Vaporize. I found that due to her sword dance's
so are all houses immune to bombs?
That hit will indeed consistently trigger Vaporize.
The bomb balloon, at least, I mean.
A Mono Hydro team, especially as a driver for Xingqiu and Yelan. The fourth slot is ideally an Anemo Vivi or Zhongli or Albedo with Archaic Petra. You can consider a Taser team, but just remember she can't proc Beidou's Chain Lightning, who's often a staple in Taser teams.
What the hell was that?
Still, it's a possible team comp, just far from being as good as other Taser teams.
I'm done warming up. I can do even better now.
To wrap up this video, let me share some observations and considerations from my experience with Nilou. A big question many people will wonder is how good she is in her niche, and it's a relief that her Bloom team is actually strong. This is Bloom's peak potential, and it's at least one promising niche that interested players can explore, or uninterested players can easily ignore. Outside of her Bloom team, she's a side grade or downgrade compared to most other Hydro alternatives. I do think she's a very free-to-play friendly character. Farming HP main stats is easier, and she works very well with various two-piece combos. She has very accessible and good weapon options going for her too. And most importantly, her default Bloom team is composed of free characters, Dendro Traveler, Cole, and Barbara. Even though there are 5-star alternatives now and in the future, you nonetheless
they nerfed the bomb brutes. They were admittedly too useful in the base game, but in here they're just straight up useless. I never use them anymore.
In her Bloom teams, like a dedicated crowd controller or defensive unit that's either Hydro or Dendro. Though they're not necessary,
the bomb upgrade is way too destructive.
To play with. It all goes back to how our current teammate options are still quite limited for Nilou's Bloom niche, and I don't think it's a good idea to pull for characters based on their future potential. So the safest route is to wait for a rerun and see if she gets more team building options. But if you're set on pulling Nilou, then you've got a team ready to go, and we can hope there's more room for her to bloom in the future. Anyway, that's going to be all for this guide and review. I'm very interested to know your thoughts on Nilou down in the comments, especially if you managed to try her out already. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon.
Oh, come on, even the upgraded version doesn't work. Shirt, I'm going the wrong way. Frick. Okay, yeah, that healed too much now. I am simply running. They just ragdolled me around. Come on, that's no fun. ever living fuck! Why? Woo! I require respite. Oh my fucking god. I just came up with an unexpected utility for the square bomb. For what it's worth. Never mind, it just...
Ladies and gentlemen, Wang's coming at you here with another Tournament Advanced Wars game. Today we're checking out my game from round 2 of the Advanced Wars Quack Cup, the weird and wacky gimmicky high funds tournament with lots of weird rules. You may remember my first game, I was playing as Humboldt against Grit on a map dominated by pipe runners. Link up here in case you want to check that game out. I ended up winning that, which means I'm advancing on to round 2, and this time around I went up against yet another Grit player. Lots of Grit players in the Quack Cup because most of these maps are not very Grit friendly, but they're low tier, so they allow Grit anyway. This is a tier 3 matchup, but they allowed grit on it because this is not a very grit-friendly map, and this means that you're going to see a lot of grit players because people go like, oh wait, grit is available here? Of course I'm going to pick grit because, you know, people like playing grit. It's fun to spam artillery, especially in a tournament setting, even though he does have some pretty significant weaknesses on this map, which we'll get into later. Due to this, I knew that there was a big chance I would go up against grit. I think Javier was banned, even though it was tier 3, so I spent a lot of time thinking about which CO to pick. I was contemplating Adder because, you know, Adder, he's pretty damn good against grit with his movement powers, even though he's like one tier below tier 3. In High Fun, sometimes you can get away with that because it's a very weird format. So I was contemplating Adder. I was also thinking maybe Jake or even Jess, because this is a pretty funny map. You can spam a lot of units here. So I really wanted to get some movement, but I also thought, you know, what if I don't go up against a grit player? Then it might be better for me to pick Kindle, because she is really strong in tier 3. Lots of properties on this particular map, which we'll get into later. So I went back and forth, but ultimately I decided to settle on Kindle, and I did actually end up going up against Grit, and that actually made me a little bit sad, because this matchup, it's not fantastic for Kindle. This is definitely not her best matchup, at least not in High Funds. She does have, you know, she does do a decent amount of damage on this map, lots of properties for her to sap HP up, but she doesn't have any movement, and against Grit, you really need extra movement, because you want to take down those artillery lines before he can set them up, and just become absolutely unbeatable. And I don't have a single movement boosting power, which is a little bit annoying. Grit isn't very, very strong. If you let him build up and you let him reach a critical mass, then there's pretty much nothing you can do. There is some fun play on certain maps. You can actually see High Society being popped here if you have a lot of properties and you need a lot of firepower to bust through a heavily defended grid wall. But again, movement is really what you would need in that situation, and Kindle doesn't get any movement at all. But she does have some play on this particular map. It's called Overflow, and this is a wild map. You have not 2, not 3, not 4, you have 5 bases, and this is absolutely incredible. This means Urban Blight's going to do a lot of damage whenever you pop it. 5 bases and 1 airport, as well as 2 comm towers. So it's a very, very dynamic map. Now, most of these bases are surrounded by a river, and you actually need to take a very convoluted roundabout way to get to the center. All units that are being constructed here actually has to go around here to get into the center, which is really weird. It takes a long time to reinforce in the center. It's the only reason Grid is allowed on this map. Normally, in any sane 5-base map, any normal map, Grid would be unbeatable because he can build 5 artilleries per turn. And he can still do that, but his artilleries will take a very long while to reach the center. But once they do, you are on the clock, because with 5 artillery being built every single turn, that means that Grid is very quickly going to reach a point where you cannot kill him. There's just too much artillery on the map. If you attack him, Grid, he'll just shoot you down, he'll just continue to build up a critical mass, and he'll just edge you off the map. Now, you may notice there are labs on this map. When there are no HQs present, the labs acts as the HQ, so that means that capturing the opposing player's lab will win you the match. There's a single black boat on these labs to protect them from being just rushed down by some infantry or whatnot. But these labs are very exposed because, as with most maps, the Overflow has a strong side, weak side, and on your strong side you have 4 bases, and on your weak side you have 1. So it's a 4 versus 1 base, which means that this map is an HQ rush. You need to rush down your opponent's lab, or otherwise they're going to rush down yours, and it pretty much is a race to see who can take down the opposing lab the first. But one thing that makes this very tough is that your lab is on your weak side. So you have 1 base to protect your lab with and 4 bases to assault the enemy's lab with. Now against Grit, this changes because Grit doesn't want a lab rush. He's not very good at that. What the Grit player will do is funnel all of his artillery over here to protect his lab, and then he will just try to defend as you mercilessly try to crush his lab. So it becomes a very, very, very aggressive matchup, and this map ended up being absolutely wild. Let me tell you, it was insane. My opponent for this particular round is named Femboy, a very funny username, and you might be seeing a lot more of this player moving forward. I'm not ready to reveal why exactly, but if things go according to plan, you'll be seeing this player a lot more. So take note of this name, you know, aside from the meme potential. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I say it's time to begin the matchup.
I bought every Nintendo 3DS and Wii U game on the eShop. That's 866 Wii U games and 1,547 3DS games, including DSiWare, Virtual Console games, and DLC, equating to 1.2 terabytes on the Nintendo Wii U and 257 gigabytes, or 2,136,689 blocks on the Nintendo 3DS. That's right, this thing measures in blocks. And this whole ordeal took 328 days, required 464 eShop cards, and cost $22,791. This is how we did it. Back in 2022, Nintendo made a lot of announcements. Yes, new games will always get me excited, but the announcement that hit me the hardest was that the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS eShops would be shutting down on March 27th, 2023. As somebody who loves playing and collecting games, this sort of thing is always scary. When a digital storefront shuts down or games get delisted, countless titles run that risk of being lost forever. That's when I got this stupid crazy idea. What would it take to save all those Nintendo Wii U
Maybe
and
it'll
3DS
be better
games
for me
from
to
being lost?
conserve my
Step one of many was to determine
foods.
necessary costs and storage.
and just go for
Unfortunately, none of
a
the
few
comprehensive
temporary
lists
hearts rather
online
than a
that we
frick
found
ton all the
included
time.
prices or even file sizes. So we spent 3 days compiling all that data into a big spreadsheet. Once we had all that information, we were able to more easily march forward with our noble cause of preservation. Sorry, there's absolutely no way the company is
Wait, what?
18 grand on Nintendo games. Now we tried to get a sponsor for this video, but nobody would bite.
Oh,
so
oops.
we had to indirectly fund this project with a bunch of sponsors. Today's video is brought to you by our sponsor. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by today's sponsor. Once we had the money, it was time to add the fund to our eShop balance. At that point in time, we had just two options. One, add funds to my Nintendo ID account with a credit card, or two, use eShop gift cards. When weighing our options as to which would use my the bank to stall us out on our quest, buying eShop cards physically in bulk seemed like the way to go. So, I reached out to friends and coworkers to get this done. Which contained me and my buddies from high school, Phil and Alan, as well as Toasty, one of my camera guy friends over at G4. There was King Mustard, Mr. Michael, editor of
You know, I kind of want to go to Satari Mountain and get some hearty durians now.
Which was just head by
And the
himself.
other stuff.
Driving around town in Michael's car, buying up a bunch of eShop cards to get a bunch of games on video game consoles from 10 years ago.
Number one bonds, here we go. 5 links.
We got 40 $50 cards that equate to $2,000 right here. I'll grab them all out.
We just learned that it is GameStop policy that you can only buy $200 worth of gift cards in a single purchase. So, delete all of these.
Mikey, what if we get a bunch of waffle babies? Does that count?
No, it doesn't. No, they probably won't let us walk away with all these.
Ooh! Got some Zelda! I didn't say Zelda at all. Why would I say that? That wasn't a thing. That's not it's a joke, huh? That's funny.
They said, no, I can only pay as much as I could in cash, which is bizarre because they were saying they only take cash and debit, but not credit, which to me, if you try to buy and launder gift cards, you'd want credit and debit at the very least because you can track it better. MVPs of our search were Target, Best Buy, and shockingly, Home Depot and Lowe's. Probably because nobody would think to do their Nintendo shopping at a hardware store. In a matter of hours, we had made incredible progress. But right at that finish line, disaster struck.
Hey, by chance is not getting a text flagging our information?
Mikey's card keeps getting declined.
The bank is still declining the card, even though it should be good.
I think we're short like 2K. And Mikey was the last line of defense to get us there.
Just absolute. We had the cards, we had the money. Best Buy wanted to sell them to us, but the bank locked us out. Today, capitalism took the big L.
If we got total half of what we were supposed to get, I would have been impressed. But the fact that we ourselves got about half, that's phenomenal to me. At the end of the day, even with all of our credit cards frozen, I knew we'd be okay. we knew which stores would be kind and which would restrict us. So, with all those cards in hand, it was time for the real adventure to begin. So, we had our money, we had all of our systems set up, ready to go, and had our full list of games to purchase. All we had to do now was just fire up the eShops, load up all the eShop card codes into My Nintendo Balance, and right away we ran into a brick wall. Now, I'm not sure if any of you at home know this, but both the Wii U and 3DS eShops have a lot of restrictions. Most likely to prevent kids from accidentally bankrupting their parents, a digital wallet can only ever hold $250 at a single time. I thought the limit was specific for when making credit card purchases. I was woefully wrong. This is why it's stupid. This is why we're doing this. This is exactly why we're doing this. We have to add a balance, buy games, add balance, buy games, add balance, buy games.
Did some napkin math, and it's about $18,000 divided by 250 is 72. So we have to do this whole cycle 72.
So I can't purchase and then hit download later for too many games.
So basically every 10 games, because we're only 10 on the list.
Yeah. Look, Nintendo, I know you didn't mean to hurt my feelings. Let me tell you I'm mad at you. I bought $18,000 worth of these Nintendo gift cards that you tried to make sure I couldn't buy. I bought them all, and now you're saying I only put $250 at a time on your balance? On your stores? And I can only download so many games at once? Come on, man! I'm trying to give you money! And to make all this sting a little more, after redeeming several $1,000s worth of gift cards,
I really
which
don't
just
have any
locks
amber.
me out.
Oh, never
I have
mind.
to
There we
wait
go.
almost 24 hours before I redeem any more cards, which puts a big problem
I
for
might
us
want
in our
to save
plans,
some of these so I can
because
craft
we
them
basically can only buy games every other day. So,
into circlets and
called
stuff in
Nintendo
Gerudo.
support.
You know what? Actually,
lot.
never mind.
We worked our way up the chain with different representatives to see if there was any way that these roadblocks could be removed or at least lessened. In all cases, it was a very straightforward and grim no, as those blockers were hard-coded into the systems themselves, and they were not able to be adjusted with any individual account. Suddenly, I was battling a ticking clock, because even though we had the cash, I started to wonder if I even had the time to spend it all.
Okay, so you said good news, bad news.
Yeah, so we got some double good news. First things first, we got all what we think is the remaining balance for the whole project, which puts it around 22 to 23,000, which will take care of, we hope, the DLC for 3DS. The other good thing is that because of things like Game Awards coming around and like other events and stuff, games are going on sale all the time for franchises. So that's actually solid for us. We might actually save some money depending on the week of when we download things. The bad news, going through our spreadsheets, games are disappearing. So there are games that I can't purchase anymore because they've been removed. Publishers are not renewing their licenses knowing the shops are closing in March of next year.
All this would be more manageable if it wasn't happening over Wi-Fi, because downloading anything takes a long time. There it is, fine.
Unlike either of its console generation contemporaries in the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, the Wii U has paltry internal memory, with external hard drives truly being the only way to store
Wow.
everything. So, we checked around across various forums for the best external 2TB hard drives, hooked up to our Wii U, and started the downloading process. And
Why
about
are you selling
137
these things?
gigabytes
They're
into
pretty
filling it up, we
dangerous.
encountered an error message telling us
Although I
that we
guess
were
it's
unable to add additional
Hard times
games
nowadays.
because the storage was
Still,
full. Now, we
a little
knew
scary.
there was no way that could actually be possible. We had done the math about how much data we needed.
And you make so much money out of it too.
Runs on the Wii U then.
It doesn't make any sense because you can make as many folders as you want that have hundreds of icons in those folders.
No, I know, that's
Huh.
just what this form says.
Did this
It
note
doesn't matter
quill
the amount of folders that
stay
it's the
unchanged?
icons themselves.
Yeah, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, guys, but it's the exact same on the 3DS.
Despite having enough space, the icon limit kneecapped the idea of having every game on either system, ultimately requiring me to collectively stack up SD cards and hard drives. And when it comes to DSiWare, we hit an exceptionally bizarre problem. They don't save to an SD card. They save directly to the console no matter what. And the memory on the console is only 1005 blocks, or in our real world case, 125 megabytes of space. So, I purchased and downloaded a few DSiWare games. The 3DS would eventually tell me that I hit the limit of my system memory, or that I hit the total number of allotted DSi icons. Then it was time to back out of the eShop, head to the system management menu, where I then would have to painstakingly migrate each DSiWare title to the SD card for my ever-growing tower. Then I'd have to go back to system memory, where I would then have to delete the now migrated DSiWare game to clear up storage. Then back to the eShop, scroll back to where I was in the download line, and begin the process all over again. And all of this happened before dealing with any of the DLC for either console. Now look, I'll start with the good. The Wii U has a streamlined system for DLC. Click on a game to purchase from the eShop, and well, bam! There's an icon letting you know that, hey, this game has DLC. You click on the game, you can even scroll down and immediately see what DLC is available to download. This largely made the process of filling out the Wii U library a snap. And if you want to see all the hidden gems on the Wii U when it has to offer, share this video with a friend or an enemy. I don't care. Views are views, and if this sucker gets 1 million views in 3 months, I'll make a video showcasing some of these weird-ass games that I found. I am not above pandering like this. This whole experience has completely broken me. But 3 months ago, I was already in far too deep, and that's before we even fully touched on the Nintendo 3DS and... Hey, look, I have tried to be understanding, accommodating here, but the infrastructure and the user experience for the Nintendo 3DS is horrendous. The search feature is awful. There's no way to effectively filter out game trailers, let alone navigate, forcing you to click through every single page once you've been forced to start downloading games. Tags are outdated or flat out incorrect, but the single greatest bane of my existence is how the Nintendo 3DS handles DLC on the eShop. In that, it doesn't. You cannot search for the DLC separately on the Nintendo 3DS eShop. It simply will not appear. Now, there is a category for games that have DLC, but the DLC is not there. You can only access the possibility of purchasing DLC once you boot up the games themselves.
Visit SmartCoins.shop. Want to download new decorations for your photos?
I do want to download these weird things.
So here is where
Oh,
things
boy.
are getting a little, where the costs are ballooning. Now we've got DLC, including DLC for Theater Rhythm, Final Fantasy, Curtain Call. That game is already expensive. There are also 5 pages songs to download, which is 50 songs. That's another $50. On top of downloadable characters.
Nothing's happening.
When you think of Mario, this said anything you photograph can become a part of the Mushroom Kingdom.
So the cost of this game is basically triple what it says in the eShop.
Are you sure about this? But in the most confounding anti-capitalist yet, some games would hide their DLC options, and many of these are first-party Nintendo titles. I shit you not. New Super Mario Bros. 2. You need to beat the first world, which is a ninth of the game, before the DLC becomes even available for you to purchase. You must play the game before you can pay more money to buy more game. And Super Mario Bros. 2's bizarre practice of distance DLC was not an outlier either. Fire Emblem Fates required me to play through 5 chapters before the DLC shop became available. Actually, it's 6 chapters, not 5. There's 2 more Fire Emblem games that have similar DLC requirements, and best related for speeding That's right, Ace Attorney. You have to beat the game before you can buy the DLC, and that takes an average of 24 hours! Ah! Ultimately, I do hope that I can play many of these games, and in using the entire library, I am now able to do so. But because my Nintendo ID is now linked with a single Wii U and 3DS, playing a game meant potentially not downloading other games, and that sort of gameplay unknown made the ever-approaching calendar date in March that much scarier. And after months of work, it's done. The task, when completed, actually looks unfortunately pretty unimpressive. Those hard drives and SD cards contain the entire Wii U and 3DS digital library. We did it! But I'm sure after all of this, you've still got one more lingering question. It's a big one, right? Why? Why did I do this? Why does any of this matter? Why go through so much effort and spend so much money that I don't have? Well, because all across the globe, developers did exactly that. They dedicated efforts, funds, to get their games up on these various shops. If you can't find the physical version of a game or
fucking
digital like most games were, the eShop would be your best bet. With it all closed,
why do I keep doing
all
this?
the
I just hate that
recommendations from our
freaking
friends
shrine
can't
so
help you
much.
anymore.
The very best game
Whatever,
on Nintendo
it doesn't
3DS eShop
matter.
that you should pick up before they're gone forever are Ace Attorney 5 and 6, Push Mode, Pocket Card Jockey, and Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix.
The only way to still play Duck Hunt, like old school Duck Hunt, is on the Wii U. In the eShop.
Some of my favorites are Rhythm Heaven Fever is on the Wii U Virtual Console. Amazing. Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix is on the 3DS eShop exclusive. Incredible rhythm games.
My favorite games on the 3DS and Wii U, respectively,
You didn't give me enough money, by the way.
And for the Wii U, it's definitely gotta be Xenoblade Chronicles X. You get on that 50 hours in. Don't get that in just any other game.
I know this is a cop-out answer, but Gunstar Heroes. I know Gunstar Heroes originally was the same game, definitely a physical copy. As far as being able to play it on 3DS, that was the jam.
If you want a nice little Wii U game to have as a nice little treasure on your system, give Dr. Luigi a chance.
Do you have a minute to hear about my Lord and Savior, Pushmo?
Pushmo, baby! Pushmo World, 3DS, Wii U, 5 and 6. You can't get any more, and that sucks.
Story of Seasons, 3DS. Where will I ever be able to find you again?
Goodbye to the Wii U and 3DS eShop. You were fantastic. You brought us a lot of games, a lot of software, and we'll miss you fondly.
Rest in peace, eShop. You really brought us some classics, and then ripped our hearts open.
Goodbye, 3DS and Wii U eShop. You were confusing to use, but you had pretty good music.
I will look into this.
Lost media is very real as far as video games preservation is concerned. Since the industry started, we run a daily risk of losing games forever. That's why this matters. And that's why I've been a long-time supporter of non-profits like the Video Game History Foundation and their efforts to support the preservation of video games code, print media, and more. In fact, we started our own charity event, Preserve to Play, which is an annual charity event to raise money for that. And that's happening this year on April 15th and 16th on my Twitch channel. And I will be donating these consoles and all the storage to the Video Game History Foundation at the very end, so that all these games can live on. So that's it. It's done. Every available game on the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS has been saved. It cost far too much time and way too much money.
Those game lists were surprisingly smaller than I thought they'd be.
Thank you all so much for watching, and sound off in the comments
Compared to Steam, those are baby numbers.
I've been Gerard the Completionist, and I'll see you all.
And the worst part is that they can't even assure quality in that small library even.
The funny thing is that this eShop
Probably.
music, instead of making you feel joyous and happy that you're buying a new game, it will forever make your blood boil.
The matchup. So, most of the bases, they do start out uncaptured, leading to a pretty slow start of this particular match.
And you obviously want to go for the bases first. That's pretty much a no-brainer. And yes, I am pressing weight on my black boat here. This is a tournament game. I want to make sure that I'm moving all my particular forces. But I am going for this airport really quickly. Of course, I want to get those battlecopters out as soon as possible. Against grid, battlecopters are your best friend because you want to force the grid player to build Empire. Every Empire that he builds is an artillery he will not have. So battlecopters need to be spammed often, and then as you progress into the late game, you want to grab bombers, because against grid, you need to bust through walls. He will put infantry in front, artillery in the back, and whether or not you can defeat grid depends on your wall-breaking skills. You need to be able to bust through his lines and deal damage to his artillery early before he sets up a wall. And if you don't play aggressive, if you sit back and you let the grid player just build up a force, then you will just lose. You will reach a point where it's pretty much impossible. Now, Femboy here, building an APC, pretty smart. You want to grab those transports early, get them over, and start to capture. There's lots of properties on this map. There's also an island with 2 properties that you definitely want to get. That's 4k income, so you can't just ignore that. You need to absolutely get it, or otherwise you're going to suffer economically. So I'm building a transport copter here instead of a battlecopter early on, because I want to use this transport copter to ferry infantry across the river and eventually grab this island right here. This transport copter can allow you to do some funny boosting, because again, you can, for example, you can put the transport copter here or here to boost infantry over the river, which can help them reach some properties early on. But APCs are good too, but I'd say transport copters are probably a lot better on this particular matchup. But you kind of want to do both. In this map, you can definitely get away with building transports early. So yeah, my opponent here building his first artillery. The first of many. You're going to see so many artillery in this particular matchup. Oh my goodness, you're going to see so much artillery. So here you can already see I'm using the transport copter to build an infantry here, boost it down onto this river. This will allow me to reach one of these properties one turn earlier, and that's already going to make the transport earn itself in. But the name of the game for me in this particular matchup is tanks and neo-tanks. Medium tanks are way too slow. I don't think I'm going to build a single medium tank on this particular matchup. Medium tanks with their 5 moves, it's just not going to cut it. It takes too long for them to get to the front lines. Yes, they have firepower, but they also die very easily to artillery. Tanks, neo-tanks, battlecopters. That's going to be the unit composition that I need to go up against the grid player here. First things first, the capture phase. Just make sure that we get as much money as possible. This map has a very long and drawn-out capture phase because of how big it is and how slow this map is to start. And of course, going up against the grid player, the capture phase is really where I'm at my strongest, because of course it takes so long for the grid player to get artillery out in this particular matchup. Like, he only has 2 at the moment. He's building battlecopters, which is smart. But overall, the capture phase is where I definitely need to exert a lot of pressure, interrupt as much as possible, take advantage of the fact that my opponent has very low firepower, minus 20% firepower, and the fact that he doesn't have that many artillery out. Now, he has to build battlecopters, and that's smart. He wants to build battlecopters. You can't neglect battlecopters as grid in high funds. Yeah, sure, they have 20% less firepower, which is kind of bad, but you know, they're still necessary. Now here, my opponent actually base skips to get an artillery out. With 5 bases, I think you can be excused for base skipping every now and then. I think the unit cap in this particular map is like, I think it's 60 or 70, so you can afford to get a lot of units out, but there's still a chance that you might actually hit the unit cap. So I don't think it's overly detrimental for Femboy here to base skip just to get that artillery out. But yeah, not much to say about this particular matchup now in the early stages. Both players are just kind of moving out. I built my first fighter because, again, there's 2 battlecopters on the map and probably soon to be a 3rd. So the fighter is going to be nice. Again, any unit with high movement is going to be king against grid. Even fighters are going to be very useful because you need to break through those battlecopters. Now here, Femboy actually decides to interrupt my cap with an infantry and gets shellacked pretty hard for it. But again, he is denying 2k income from me by doing this, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a nice little boost here with this transport copter. Pretty smart. Pretty smart. Uses his APC to funnel units out as well. Starting to set up defenses around his lab. Building artillery out. Again, I'm going to apply a lot of pressure to that lab very quickly, so he needs to get his units out into position. So just moving out and builds 2 anti-air and 2 artillery. So again, that's 2 artillery that he's not building. So again, just put those air units out as quickly as possible. Now I'm going for the clock towers as well. No engagement has taken place yet, aside from that solitary one, but I decided to take out his infantry because why the hell not? You know, every infantry you can get rid of against Grit is very valuable because that is one less wall that he has to hide his artillery behind later on. And as a Grit player, you don't really want to be spending the mid to late game producing infantry, you want to produce artillery. So taking out a solitary infantry from any Grit player is going to come back and help you out later on in the match. Now, yet I'm not building any Neotanks yet, I'm still just building relatively cheap units. Anti-air tanks. My fighter's been like the most expensive unit that I've built so far. But you can see already he's starting to set up a convoy around his lab because he knows where the pressure will be applied. But look what a roundabout way he has to send all of his units around to protect his lab. So this is where I can intercept his artillery convoy. This is where I can start to apply pressure. But already I'm on the clock. I'd say I probably have about 6 to 7 days to really punish him before those artillery start to just become unbearable. Look at that, 4 artillery coming out from the pulse right now. I mean, this is insane. He's playing defensively. He knows he needs to set up a good wall against me here. If I can find a crack in his defenses and take out some artillery early on, then I'm in a very good spot. Even if I can sack tanks to damage his artillery, that's very good for me. Now here, I'm going for the island. And both players are now just starting to capture all the properties in their stuff. Now here, I decided to sack a battlecopter. Or not necessarily sack it, because again, he only has a solitary battlecopter that can attack mine, but it's a battlecopter with minus 20% firepower. No, he's still going to do a decent amount of damage to me, but I'm happy to sack a battlecopter to take out an artillery on the front lines, or at least to weaken it. I am happy to do that, because Grit's units are more valuable than my units. A single artillery that he set up, it's going to take him about 6 to 7 days to reinforce and do artillery into this position. So, and it only takes me a few days to have a battlecopter reach the front lines. So, tempo-wise, even though like value-wise, throwing away a single battlecopter to destroy an artillery is not quote-unquote worth it for me. Tempo-wise, it's earning me a lot of money. Because, again, battlecopter is easier for me to get battlecopter to the front lines. It's harder for him to get artillery out of the front lines. That just bought me time. That's 1 less artillery that he has on the front lines. And yeah, sure, it still has 4 HP, but he still wants to pull it back for repairs. And it's going to be stuck like 3 turns repairing itself back up to full health. Again, all I'm playing for right now is time. I need time to crush him and capture his lab. This game is all about time. And here, just going hyper aggressive with the tanks. Don't bother with medium tanks, it's all about movement, so I'm just spamming
red enemies don't spawn naturally.
Here he decides to send one of his battlecopters to interrupt my camp. I was a bit puzzled by this because this is very reckless. He's going to lose an infantry from this. And again, you see, 4-8, it's decent. I mean, he does at this point, he does have 2 comp towers, which means that this battlecopter is quote-unquote normal. That offsets the firepower penalty. So, but, I consider this a decent trade, all things considered. He takes down some more of my infantry. Played a little bit recklessly with this infantry, I will admit. Probably should have been a bit more careful. And the artillery convoy is now really starting to move heavily into position here. I mean, this is quite insane. He's not using his transports super well, in my opinion. Probably could have found some more use for them, but here, just using the transports to transport infantry into the front lines, putting them in front. He knows that the attack is coming. He builds a fighter. Has to build a fighter. Really has no choice. I'm going to start building bombers soon, so he needs to be quick. But using his transports mostly to get his infantry away. Has to build 2 more. Again, you do have to put some infantry into your build order. You can't just build artillery, because if you lose the ability to capture, then you're going to be in problem. You're going to be in trouble. But here, I decided to capture this city. I just want to draw his infantry out from his wall, make him stretch out. It's very tough as Gret to
whatever, I give up. I can't find
decision whether or not you should move out of your wall to capture properties, or whether or not you should just bunker up. Against a Gret player, you definitely want to be ahead in income, and you can see that I am ahead in income right now. If you're tied with a Gret player, you're pretty much behind. Here, I could go for the camp, but I decided to go for the attack instead, just trying to kill as many infantry as I can, just to weaken that potential future wall, because I know that moving forward, there's going to be a lot of wall breaking coming up. here, I decide to actually go in. There's nothing to rule threaten this battlecopter, so you know, why not? It works, right? And here I built my first Neotank. Again, against Grid, you need some Neotanks. Tanks alone are not going to bust through the walls, so you do need to get some Neotanks out because they can one-shot infantry on planes, which is really nice. A little bit of a Manx infantry here, I will admit. A little bit of a Manx infantry, not completely, but just a tiny bit. And again, just look at all those artillery.
You need somewhere around here.
Oh my goodness, so many artillery. So many artillery. Oh.
Never mind.
You can tell, he knows where the attack is coming. He knows where the attack is coming, and he is moving every single one of his units over there. It's pretty insane.
Don't care.
Here he's being a little bit ambitious, I think, moving those units forward. But making a wall with my battlecopter is kind of funny, actually. So yeah, here I do think he's overextending a little bit, moving his artillery forward. This is scary what he's doing. He does have these 2 mountains, which is very nice. These mountains will help protect him quite a bit. But I do have air units coming. But overall it's not a terrible wall, but I think he's playing a little bit ambitiously here because look at all the tanks I have coming towards him. And I will get these properties, which is nice. I'm sending a Neotank down on my weak side because I noticed that he has a lot of anti-air here and I'd like to shoot them down if at all possible. So in comes the battlecopter, tanks are coming in as well. You can tell this is a powder keg just waiting to explode right now. I mean, this is... Right now, both players are just sizing each other up. I'm just keeping my units out of his range, preparing for the eventual attack. I know that in about 1 or 2 days I have to attack. So, just moving in, you can tell this is going to be absolutely wild. And now I build a Neotank. Come to think of it, I probably should have built the Neotank on my strong side rather than my weak side. Looking back on this play right now, sure, this Neotank can hand anti-air, but overall I'm not very pleased with this play. This attack would have been so... This attack would have had a Neotank spearheading it, instead it won't. So, yeah, splitting my forces up like that, when it's clear that this is where I need to apply pressure, not my finest moment, to be honest. But yeah, Fanboy continues to move his... Oh, look at that artillery conch line. I mean, this is just insane. And he's preparing his wall pretty well. Look at that, that is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. Look at that! Oh my god. Someone please count the amount of artillery in this matchup. I would love to know. I would love to know. So here, my attack comes in, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. Urban Blight. I wasn't sure if maybe this was too early. Maybe I should have built up 1 more turn. But I was like, you know what? No, this is, you can tell that how scary this is. And also, I wanted to pop my Urban Blight on a turn where he built 5 artillery. Because, hey, that means they're going to be a little weakened. It's going to be 9 HP artillery, which are a lot easier to wall break. So, in I come. I start to attack with my infantry. Start to go to work on his wall. This is nice. This gives me a city
the rain pitter-patter effect in Breath of the Wild looks really pretty.
And in I come with the battlecopter.
I like it.
I managed to take down 3 artillery with this initial attack, which is pretty
The effect
good.
on the ground that's drawn.
It's not. It's a small dent in his armor, but it's a significant one. A Neotank follows it up as well, and I decide to attack him a little bit on my weak side as well, because again, this is a convoy of artillery that he's moving up, and every artillery that I can damage means I'm gonna be in less trouble later. So I'm happy to sack a few units to make some progress here.
Oh, okay.
To take a bit of a city boosted shot with my infantry. It's why not, you know? And he already has his power charged up, and I know that I'm going to get shot next turn. Again, I'm just using my transport to boost my infantry. More Neotanks, more tanks. D14 rolls there. And here Fanboy has his powers ready. He can pop his super snipe, but there's not really any point in doing that. In fact, I don't really think he has that many good plays, but he pops his snipe attack regardless. 1 range to all of his artillery. And he does get some decent shots. Uses his anti-air to kill my battlecopter, but overall I'd say this is a pretty weak snipe attack. I think maybe he should have waited a turn. but maybe he felt the pressure. I think the pressure that I put on him forced him to pop his power, but yeah, this is, I mean, only like 3 kills with a snipe attack. By grid standards, that isn't a lot. But you can tell he's coming in with a lot of artillery still. Now he's getting his island, which is smart. You gotta get that island quickly. That's 4k income that you're just leaving. But again, more artillery. I mean, just look at this. This is cold beyond on the clock right here. I mean, you can tell. If I don't apply pressure, then I'm toast. I am absolutely toast. I mean, all these artillery, they just become stronger and stronger and stronger as the game progresses. So my turn rolls in. I am greatly ahead in income, but you're supposed to do that against Grit. I get a nice city boosted tank right here. And my tanks are coming in as well. I know he has his normal power ready again if he wants to, so I have to keep that in mind when moving in. But I have to start working on his wall right now. Now here, he is overextending a little bit. He probably should have pulled back a little bit more. But here I am setting up for my second attack. And I will have another Urban Blight for that attack, because again, in High Flux, there's just so much value inside. I have to pull back here, though. Here I am capturing his Com Tower, which may seem a little bit ambitious. You may look at this and go like, oh, max infantry, but no. This is actually very deliberate. And the reason I'm capping his Com Tower is because what are these infantry really going to do at this point? I'm not getting this property. And these infantry they're not really in range to help out here. So what I am doing with them is I am distracting his artillery. He has to spend 2 artillery shooting on this infantry to interrupt the camp, which means these 2 artillery are not moving up. So I am happy to sack a unit worth 1,000 to delay 2 of his artilleries for 1 turn. That is more than okay. Against Grit, you don't want to be so focused